Yo, what's up guys? We are here with another episode of History of the Yugo Player, and we are on 21 I believe now, 9 plus 10 as you can imagine. This is another European special today. We've got the European spice because we've had too many Trump supporters in our stream. But we've got today with us Marcello Barberi. How are you today?
Hi, fine. Hello, everyone. I'm doing well.
So we're just gonna dive straight in. Feel free to tell us just a little brief introduction about yourself first of all. So, what do you do?
Yeah.
How did you start? Why do you
So,
keep playing? Be as personal or as
mhm.
impersonal as you like.
Okay. So I'm 22, and I live in Rome, of course, Italy. So what I do for a living is I study math at university, and I've been playing almost 10 years, and when I go back in time, like I used to play, of course, as a kid, like I knew the show and everything and the cars, but like my first local was around 2007. So I think we're pretty close to 10 years of locals and actual real events. So I first started to like the game pretty soon, and there was this big shop in Rome, which I still go to, so it's been a while. And we always had like 40, 50 players every weekend, so it's pretty good. And I started, as I said, in 2007. I remember my first deck ever to be some Green Baboon Panda Barn special, something like that, which was around at the time. So,
Broken.
uh, I mean, of course, the first years I wasn't really competitive or anything. So as I said, I just played locals. I didn't even go to regionals, I think. And but I mean, it's been a while, and the journey was definitely long. And I started there in Rome, just a group of friends, and we used to hang out. And it was basically just a social thing, let's say, an hobby like anything else. So I used to go there on every Saturday, and we hang out, go to dinner after the tournament, and I used to like it a lot actually. So my years, the first years I was still a kid, of course. So I'm 1994, so 2007, at like 13 years old. So I didn't even have that much money to spend on cars or anything. But I used to buy cars anyway as soon as I could. The first actual event I remember, let's say more important one, was national. My first national was in 2010, so we go after 3 years back. And I went there with some friends, had fun, but I didn't top. It was like the X Saber format, and I was playing, X Saber. It was really, really a lot of decks. I remember there were like the legends, let's say Italian legend team, which was Memoli, Minicozzi, which are also still playing, and they won everything with Harold, which was completely new. And so
Is Memoli
that
still
was really,
playing?
yeah.
Oh really?
Now, yeah, that's the new, but like it was playing since a few weeks ago. So we were teammates actually before I rejoined CCG. So um, I mean, okay, so I was saying that the big problem for any European around that time, so around 2010, was that there were no YCSs, so it was only an American thing, and we only got some Faro tours here and there, but it wasn't anything like it's today. So when finally in 2010 the first YCS took place in Europe, I was pretty hyped about it. Of course, I was still kind of young. I was like 16 years old or so. But when the first in Italy was announced, which was Milan, still in 2010, I did go there with some friends. And so, I started traveling from that time. I still wasn't that competitive. It was more around 2011 where I got more cars and more like attitude to let's go travel to events. So my first international trip, I think, was the European Championship in 2011, which was Madrid, and yeah, around that time. So that's when I started traveling. It was also when I started topping, because in 2011 My first stop was the Italian national, and it was the Tengu plant format. So what I liked about it was that I was never a like net decker type of player, so I always brought my kind of special to the deck. And for example, I was one of the first ones to never play Card Trooper or any of those cards in the plan deck. And it was pretty good. So in that national, I was like 8-0 or so. So I mean, I was pretty hyped. I was like 16, 17, not even 17, I think. And it was my first stop. It felt good, and it was one of my first events actually. So it's pretty good. And after that, I even had more joy to travel because I did go like 9-1 in Swiss, but I lost immediately in top 32. So the course began, and it was pretty bad actually because I had like 2 or 3 years of events where I did top, but I always lost in top 32. That's like my biggest course that I had until like 2014, which I will talk about. So I mean, nothing too special. So I started traveling a lot. As I said, I went to Brighton, which was also my first foreign YCS. I mean, nothing too strange, let's say. I did enjoy the game a lot, and as soon as I could travel, I mean, thankfully to my parents too, which always kind of supported me in that sense, I was able to go to a lot of events, and it was pretty good. I did actually a count on because of this interview, and I went in total from 2010 to 27 events total, and I topped 13 of them, which is fair, I guess. 50-50, not too bad.
27 events in the space of how long?
6 years.
6 years. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good record, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
So just going back a little, when you first started playing in, well, I mean, before you went to nationals, and before you could feel yourself like improving and getting better, who exactly were? I think you mentioned Memoli, but I don't know if you guys were friends when you were a lot younger. But who was it
No,
that
no,
like?
definitely not.
Okay. Well, who were the kind of people that like surrounded you that helped you improve? Because a lot of players get stuck at this point in the beginning where they play all their fun decks
Yeah.
but never really advance past that. How did that like transition take place?
Uh, Honestly, I think I don't know if it's a rare case or not, but I didn't have too many references. Like, I was kind of a lonely wolf. I don't know if you can say that, but like the community in Rome is and was always kind of okay for a number of people. Like, as I said, we are always around 40 people at locals, which is fine. I mean, it's pretty decent, but the player level was never that great. So of course I had a little group of friends, but my main reference at the time was probably metagame.com and like a few videos or decklists online. But as I said, I never really liked to net deck them much. So whenever I went home, like from school or so, I like to test my ideas. And so, and in fact, like the first decklist where I topped, which was that national and then the European Championship the next year, were like completely strange. So if I look back, like some ideas were good, some ideas was completely strange. Like for example, at the European Championship in 2012, I topped with wind-ups, like top 32 or top 6, yeah, top 32. And I was playing no factory or no magician. Like, it was a completely strange theory. So I was really not following the main directions, let's say. But I only had, I mean, I knew I was really well informed about everything, so I knew whatever the top players in America or Europe were playing, but I wasn't really in talking with anyone actually. So when I first started traveling to events, though, I started to meet people, and it was around 2013 that I met Federico Zoppini and Luigi Alici, which were the first like people where I started testing with outside of my friends in Rome, let's say. So those guys were the first which I meet, and I kept testing with them basically until today. And they were my biggest references. So I don't know. I do agree that like it's kind of strange because when you look back, you're like playing these kind of for fun decks and so on, and then you're suddenly not playing them anymore. You're improving event by event, but the transition for me wasn't I don't know. It wasn't really clear. So if I have to think back, there was not really a transition. It was just a matter of how many cards can I afford or so, because I was playing in like uh, that format, but they were 200 euros each. So I was like 15, 14 years old. I can't afford that. So maybe if I could have afforded that, I would have started topping earlier. I don't know, honestly. So I think the game is really, really different now than when it was back in 2010 or 2009, where you actually had to spend like 1,000 euros for a deck. Now you can just go buy a structure deck and you can top any event basically. So
Yeah, I mean, the game is definitely a lot different, and you know, when we're thinking about you specifically in your position there, yeah, you have like so many tops, so it's impossible to like really like talk about all of them. But I mean, are there any like really big events that come to your mind that were like kind of what's the word, like landmarks for you and like really important milestones?
yeah.
So of course the first one is important. You talked about, you know, your nationals, but was there any particular ones after that that really come to mind?
Yeah, I mean the one of the biggest landmarks for me was in 2014, like early 2014, I joined the CCG for the first time, which was along with Luigi Alici, and that was of course a change because I mean, of course, you can interact with different people. At the time, it was especially Joshua and Alpai. So we used to talk a lot with them, and it really changed my perspective on certain things. And the biggest landmark was in 2014. I topped YCS Paris going EXO in Swiss. And I remember that because in the previous years, which was like 4 years, I already had like 5, 6 tops, but I never topped the YCS. So that was like my first landmark because it was the first YCS top, and it also, I don't know, it's pretty strange how these things happen. So I topped Paris, and then I topped 7 events consecutively. So it was like from Paris to, I mean, which was it? It was like basically a year back because I topped Paris, then I topped 8 Euros. I won the YCS London, and I kept topping for 7 events in a row until like 2015. It was, I think, YCS Rimini or so. So I mean, I had a long streak. So I gotta say, Paris was a really big moment. But I mean, one of the tournaments I enjoyed the most was the European Championship in the same year, 2014.
Just
I
before
think
you
also
get onto
Josh
that, what deck did you play, sorry, for Paris?
Mermails. So yeah, it was pretty much a Mermail format. There was some gears, but yeah, it was Mermail, and I think it was the one Peter Gross won, or maybe he lost in finals. I don't remember. Yeah, I think he won. Yeah, he won. And
I think you'll find that as Infernity format, Marcello, but continue.
I mean, not really. So no, I mean, something really cool was also that the how I joined CCG, because I basically, as I told you, I didn't really know anyone from. I mean, I used to travel to events and see some guys, but I wasn't really talking to anyone. But it was really something about fate or so, because back in 2013, I played at YCS Lille, and the first time I played against Joshua, it was there, and he wrecked me. Like, I was playing Fire Fist, he was playing Mermail, so I had just a bad decision. And then it was really strange because we played for 4 events almost in a row. So I played against him at Euros. It was Dragon Ruler and Spellbook, and I won. Then we played again in YCS London, and he won. And then at that YCS Paris, we were in the same team. So of course, we played 3 events in a row. We started to talk about it, like, and we were in the same team in 2014 in Paris, and I beat him. So we are currently 2-2, but we never got to play the 5th game, which is pretty strange. I mean, it's been 2 years and we never played it. So it was pretty cool. I mean, with Joshua, as I said, inside the CCG was probably the person I was playtesting the most with. So
That's why I think he also talked about the Mermill deck we made for the European Championship. Eugen won. So that was also a pretty cool event. I got top 8. It was also my first drama because I lost due to judges mafia. I wanna say that's how I refer to stuff usually. But I mean, I went over it, and karma came back. So I got to win YCS London and so on.
So go on, what happened?
Basically, I was playing against Mazzoleni in top 8 for the World Championship. And the judge table was a judge which basically was
Mazzoleni
judging
from Liverpool recently, right?
Yeah, he's the same guy.
Okay.
So, and in fact, he went to Wars that year where Seabi won instead of me. So it was basically the table judge was the same for like 3 rounds. The table judge always my table, and I beat it in top 16. Portuguese guy. And basically, the judge started complaining, like, he didn't even care. Like, he was, oh my God, he lost because they were friends. So I was already like, shouldn't you be a judge? Like, why are you complaining that I won? But whatever. Then I played against Mazzoleni. I was playing Mermill. He was playing Spellbook, which was terrible at the time. I don't know how. But, like, basically, we are into game 1. I'm dominating completely. He's like -5, and I have Soul Charge still to use and a lot of cards. So I used the effect of Pike to search through my deck, and then the judge suddenly stops us and he says, okay, I have to give you a game loss for slow play. I was like, what? It's been 10 seconds. Like, how do you give me a game loss? Because I already had a warning in day 1. And he knew about it because, as I said, it was always my table judge. I was like, man, it's been like 10 seconds since I'm in my deck. How is it possible? He didn't answer to me, and he went to the head judge, which, of course, he's going to believe the judge. He's not going to believe me. So he gave me the game loss. And that's how I lost the top 8. After the match, of course, I was super mad. So I went to him and explained to the head judge what happened. They tried to look for the guy, and the guy left the location. So he was like, he took off the judge shirt when no one was noticing or so, and he left the location. So he was actually just doing it on purpose to get up, pseudo revenge on me for knocking his friend out. It was pretty savage. I don't know. So
he was legally a judge, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean,
because that'd be some next level shit, like put on a fake judge shirt.
Exactly, but they never found him at the location. So of course, like the head judge and the like Konami staff was apologizing to me for whatever, but like I still lost the match. So what can you do now? Like, so that was pretty bad. And but I mean, after that, whatever. As I said, karma did came back because I missed the YCS, which was Madrid, and which was Joshua for twin. But I got to London. I didn't go to Madrid, but I got to London, and I think most people knew what happened. Like 30th place to win was pretty unreal. So that was definitely the other biggest landmark of my Yu-Gi-Oh career, let's say.
Was that the Shadol format, right?
Yeah, Shadol format.
Yeah.
It was a couple months ago. Yeah, a couple months afterwards, Nago, yeah.
So just to clarify, if anyone watching doesn't know about this incident, Marcello came 33rd after Swiss for Top Cut, and he qualified to top 32 because someone got DQ'd, I believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so someone got DQ'd, so 33rd moved up to top 32, and he managed to win out the entire event. So that's pretty...
Yeah, because basically the really crazy thing is that by policies, after they post the Swiss, like the Swiss results, the standings, there are like 5 minutes from the clock in which everything can happen, and then after those 5 minutes, it's official. So even if, let's say, a fucking kill strike happen or whatever, like they're still gonna play whoever is left. Like nothing can change. But the guy managed to get DQ'd in those 5 minutes, so I got that lucky to actually climb 1 step. And it was pretty cool because I also got to play with the first in Swiss, of course, which was Patrick Reeder, which was the winner of the previous YCS London. So, I mean, I surely had some fun at that event. It was pretty unreal, and as I said, I always saw it just like karma for the European Championship of the same year. So I happy I got the chance, and I took it home. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And for 2014, the YCS London 2014. Yeah. So we're still 2014. So
Yeah.
you mentioned that from Paris all the way to I don't know what event, 7 events in a row you topped consecutively,
Yeah.
right? So I just it came to my mind that a lot of players, well, particularly good players, like it wasn't very common for like randoms to do that well in 2014. And something else as well that came to mind was Patrick Hoban, for example, had his biggest streak and he had his most success in 2014. Do you think that's just a coincidence, or do you think like something about the format helped good players excel?
No, it was definitely not a coincidence. I think, like maybe on one event which I recall to be YCS Milan. That was the first BA format, like the first event where BA was legal. Maybe that's the only event out of 7 where luck mattered a little bit more, because it was a lot of mirror matches. But the rest was really about the format, because like the European Championship, everyone was playing Georgia and and I was like, I don't want to play these decks. I think they all suck. So what could beat them? And I came up with Mermil. Then we made the deck list with Joshua, and we could completely overcome that. Then it was also the transition between Mermails and then Shadows, and it was pretty much alongside a really competitive format where the deck building and also the playstyle mattered. So I think it was really one of the best formats, which was followed shortly after by Necros too. So that's why the streak continued, because I also think Necros was a pretty good format. So my streak, basically goes from Paris, which was Mermail, to the end of Necros format, which was Rimini. So
Is that
I really
when
missed that.
clowns were
Where-
illegal for
Yeah,
Necros?
where Santoni won, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That was the last event of the streak, and I mean, then I topped other times, of course, but I mean, that was the streak. But I mean, also Joshua had it. It was like 9 in a row, so he beaten me, but he didn't top Euros that year. So I mean, it was a lot of good players having streaks in that time. So I don't think it can be a coincidence, actually. So I miss those formats. Like right now, I feel like it's more of a lottery. So
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna come back to understanding of the game and stuff, and talking about more about formats. But so focusing for the first half a little bit more on you. So
Yeah, sure.
we go from 2014 up to Necros format, and then after that we have what even came after Necros, right? So pendulums and stuff.
Yeah.
Was there any particularly important events in the from
there is. I
2015
mean,
onwards?
outside of game, the biggest change was that basically at the end of the streak, which was YCS Bochum, Lacrosse, and then like the European, that period there, I left CCG, which was the big change, let's say, after more than 1 year, because I got in contact with Memoli. So here he comes back for the first time. I didn't really talk to him, but we started talking after some issues with judges and so on, because of course he had like more than 10 years experience, so he knew how to handle those. And so I was always friend, and I was always in touch with CCG. That's why also right now I'm back. But I decided to left because I wanted to try this team, which was me, Zoppini, Memoli, and Alici. So just the 4 of us with no Facebook page or anything. We just wanted something different because we were all in United Gosus or Complexity. So we wanted a team without any, I don't know, any social media
Fame and stuff
attention
like
or
that.
whatever. Yeah, we just wanted to focus on the game and try something different, because that's what Memoli was doing. He never got into a team sponsored, and he was always doing his own. But I mean, his friends quitted the game basically, so he was searching for other guys to test with, and we decided to do that, and it was pretty successful actually. I had a really good time.
Sorry, just who was part of that? I guess so. You,
Memoli,
Luigi.
Zoppini, and Luigi. Yeah,
and Memoli as well.
yeah, Memoli. Yeah, I told Memoli, Zoppini, and Luigi.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That's the Italian
Yeah.
all-star team, but yeah, sure. All right, go on.
Yeah, exactly. It was like basically the best Italians that there were. So, and I mean, it was different. As I said, that's really changed a lot because at that time I was considering myself a really good player. Of course, I had some success already and the win and so on. But my experience with Memoli really changed me in some different ways because you see some part of the experience you're missing. So it was teaching me like how to approach some events in different ways. And of course, it was. I mean, it was really a good period. So for example, I got second place in national, which was 2000, where Di Patria won, and it was created. The monster got created, so it was my fault. And then, I mean, other events after that, we were always pretty successful. So I enjoyed it, and I mean, the end of it came really. I mean, after 2015. Luigi decided to quit the game. He like changed the lifestyle completely, so he moved from his parents' house and he just quitted the game. So it was just the three of us, and now like really recently, Stefano is also Memoli is also taking kind of a break from the game after 10 years. I mean, it's understandable. So I mean, we just shared a lot, and now it's time to. I thought it was time for me to come back to CCG, so that's what I did, and that's my aim for the next event. I mean, to do well as we used to do well with the guys from CCG back in 2014 and so on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So that's a good brief timeline. Is there anything else that you feel you missed out when it comes to the actual first part? Like the history, like the actual timeline of your career. Was there anything else that you feel is important? You've never been to Worlds, have you?
No, I didn't.
No. Okay.
The closest time was always that, yeah, the Mazzoleni one.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. So nothing else that comes to mind out of the stupid number of tops.
Yeah, I mean, no, not really. I mean, if I have to focus on any one of them, as I said, there would be talking for too much time. I just think, I mean, maybe the only strange thing that happened at the end, which is really recently, is that I got to do commentary also. So it was like the last two events, I had a new experience also outside of playing, which was this crazy thing that happened where they let me do official commentary for the YCS. And so that's a new thing that happened, let's say, but out of the game in particular, no, I think that's pretty much a good summary or what happened in these years.
And just one final question: did you ever? Because a lot of people I've spoke to in this series mentioned that judging was like a very important part for them, and it helped them, really understand rulings and get better at the game that way. Did you ever dabble in that kind of thing at all?
No, not really. Honestly, yes, I had a lot of bad experience. So, like the biggest drama I had, as I said, was the 2000, like the European Championship one. But I have like countless events where I got knocked out. Never DQ'd, but like it's a pseudo DQ when they say it's game loss or match loss where you're in top cut, of course. So I had too many bad experiences to actually have the. To say like I want to do a judge, I want to judge. So I never had this kind of experience, but I mean, it's something that I don't really want to do or never willing to do. Let's say so. No.
Okay, that's fair enough. So I mean, how did you learn your like in-depth rulings and stuff? Did it kind of just go from format to format, or did you properly read the rulebook or something?
I don't think I ever.
Yeah, I don't think many people do.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, I think some kind of knowledge comes just from experience. So of course, just when you read one thing that I think is important noticing is that card text change a lot. Like if you pick a card which is printed in 2009, or you print a card which is printed in 2016, you almost feel like you're playing two different games. So I feel like today a lot of it explained, like except some errors, which is like the Paleozoics, for example, they are printed awfully. Like every card is like you cannot miss timing. It's like I noticed this. Like lately, no cars can miss timing. It's like so rare.
Do you
And
not think that's a
I
good
mean,
thing because it avoids a lot of confusion and really strange
uh,
rulings and scenarios?
I think it's a strange topic, but I never felt like it was too complicated to learn the rulings myself. Like from me that I play since 10 years, I got to certain periods where it was actually really complicated, and maybe there were sometimes even like 10 or 15 people in the whole room of a thousand of players, hundreds of players who knew everything. At the same time, it is an advantage for the experienced players. So I I feel like that's an advantage the best player lost, but of course it's better for new players. Like I don't think it's fair that they have to not only learn the rules but only learn the rules which are not written. So I think it's fair, of course. But yeah, I mean, my knowledge just came from studying. I don't know, like I always study. I'm studying right now also math and so on. So I never really care that much about like, oh my god, I have to study these rulings or so. I actually enjoyed having the good knowledge about the game, because as I think that's an advantage you can have. I don't like sharking, for example, but like in big events, when you shark about stupid things, I think you are just an idiot. But like when you have like a kind of opportunity to shark when they like make a misplay, I think it's fair to know everything so that you don't get to get sharked. That's what I mean. I don't actually study for sharking people, but I study for not getting sharked by people. So, and especially living in Italy, that's a big thing because nationals are like,
Is the stereotype real?
I mean, it got so much worse. I was talking to some players actually about this, and my God, when I was playing like back in 2014 or so, a lot of people were saying, "Oh yeah, Italians are terrible," and I used to get triggered, let's say, by that, because it was actually not true at all. But today, nowadays, it's terrible. Like nowadays, the stereotypes are even like too fair, I think. Like there is a large population of the new Italian players which are just savages. Like they, I don't want to talk about cheating because that's even too much. But like sharking, it's not even doubtable. Like you have to be careful about everything you do, literally. So, but even on locals, that's like super impressive. Like there are like 12 years old kids, and there are, my God, they are savages. Like I don't know, never seen something like that. Like the Italian Dragon Duel Championship, like the national Dragon Duel, like you don't want to be there. Like I would be scared to sit there. Like it's absurd. So I don't know.
Italian Dragon Duel Championship. That's blood there.
I mean, I don't know. I would be scared to sit among those, I think. So yeah,
All right.
I
So
guess.
moving into the second portion now, we're gonna talk a little about your understanding of the game and these kind of like fundamentals of deck building and technical play and stuff. So
Yeah.
starting from the beginning when you first started out and when you first had your really minor successes at the local and regional level,
Yeah.
if you could look back now and ask give yourself some advice and like share to us what were some of like the major like mistakes and just kind of problems of how you viewed the game and how you played your cards.
Um, so I think, I mean, there are some mistakes that are commonly made, and one big mistake is like how you net deck, for example. Because as I said, even when I was a kid, basically, I just didn't used to net deck and play the deck list card by card, which is something that I actually notice some of the pro players even do, but I don't want to do names. Like I see sometimes that there are people who just take the deck list from USA, especially, and they just play card by card in Europe. Okay, maybe they top, but I think you have to understand that when you make a deck list, it's not just the deck list. You have to imagine you think about the environment and so on. So of course, when you go to locals, that's different. But in a specific situation, it's actually not, because, of course, if I want to test for a YCS nowadays and I go to locals, I'm not gonna change my deck because it's locals. I still wanna play my deck as if I was playing at the YCS. But when you are starting the game and you go to locals, you shouldn't just take a deck list for the YCS champion. Like, for example, you can take the deck list of Thomas, I think, which won YCS Liverpool. Like, I can easily imagine that going X3 at locals, because he was playing everything against ABC. Maybe at local you're going to play against Heroes or whatever kind of for fun deck and just lose instantly. So I think thinking more about what you're going to play against is a really important thing. And there is also a big mistake which I think I used to do, which was focusing too much on one deck. So, for example, I had some formats which were like wind-ups and mermail, basically, which I used to play for like 1 year and a half or so on. So I used to play wind-ups as soon as they were released. Then there was the first ban list, then the second ban list. They were still alive, and on one end, it's good to be really experienced with a deck, but on the other end, I suggest everyone to change deck at locals almost every week, so they can get experience with what you're gonna play against. Like, when you play a deck, okay, you can be sure of what is good against other decks, but you never really fully understand what it's like to play that deck. So that's maybe the only suggestion I would do to younger Marcello. Like, play a little bit of
Just get a bit of
every deck
every
in the
experience,
format.
you know.
Yeah, just not by testing, because, for example, maybe I think the biggest change that ever was for the Yu-Gi-Oh was Dueling Network. So that was probably the biggest thing that ever happened to Yu-Gi-Oh, because it really changed a lot. So especially for the older players, it was a shock initially, because you would be used to go to events and like, there are always like 30 guys in the room, you know, and they are above the rest. But while the end was around, everyone basically had the same chance of testing and preparing and having the knowledge for those events. So it was a shock. I think it was good for the game in some sense, but again, it's one of those things which is good for the game but bad for the good players. So I kind of am happy that it's now gone. So I don't think Death Row is nearly enough the same thing. It's not even close. So I think now there is again a little chance, if the format allows it, for good players and experienced players to have an advantage over the rest. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I didn't really play the end that much, so maybe that's one suggestion, the last suggestion I would give myself, because I basically hated so much the rated game. So sometimes I did rate it just because I had the time and it was not difficult to climb, let's say. But I used to just get 2 different accounts and play against myself. So I thought that was much more useful. So
Yeah, okay, cool. And in terms of technical play, what were some of the big things that you would change? So, for example, when I spoke to Fraser recently, for example, he mentioned the fact that a lot of players just play their cards. Like, as soon as you can use a card, you just use it. That kind of thing. So in terms of technical play, you know, what are some major mistakes that you kind of learned from to avoid or evolve from?
I think there was a big moment where I realized that not the importance. What's the opposite of importance?
Irrelevance, I guess.
I don't know. Irrelevance of life points. I think that's actually a big thing for new players. Like, which is also for every other game, actually. Like, for example, I do play Hearthstone, and I see the same mistake for new players there. So, like, life points, if you win having like 8,000 life points or having a single life point, it's the same thing. So I think that I really noticed, and in some formats it does matter, is use your life points as a big resource. So sometimes you are just concerned about taking damage, concerned about how much to expose myself. Well, nowadays something that I do is actually consider all those kind of plays that my opponent can do, and like the maximum amount of damage, even if that's like 7,900 life points, that's fine for me. You know what I mean? So I think that's really a good thing that I learned. So how to deal with my own life points, like, which is not that easy to do. It's like kind of an experience thing. It's like, it's maybe easy to comprehend if I say it. Like, yeah, of course that's true. You didn't lose, so. But many people do that. I think many people will throw at you whatever, a Mirror Force, Book of Moon or something to just save their life points a little bit. But that's one big mistake that it's commonly made. And the other big things that I think I would change in my past is side decking also, because now it's even more important than life points for me. I think side deck is. We'll also talk about it with you a little bit. I think side deck is the most important thing in Yu-Gi-Oh, even more than the main deck for some purposes. So sometimes in the past I was just like throwing cards in there. I was like, okay, this card looks good against that deck. This card looks good against that deck. Okay, and then maybe just go to a tournament, and when you're playing, imagine what you should cut. Now I go to the event just completely prepared, especially on what I want to side, on what my strategy is on that. And I think people should be less scared about making the main deck and side deck work together as a like, I don't know, as a river, let's say, like they go fluently together. I think you have to take risks sometime and just say, I'm gonna change my strategy completely after siding. Like, I didn't mind, for example, I remember some people like Wilson Sang, which was a USA pro, let's say, I don't know, pro, I don't like the word pro, but yeah, which used to do a little bit of this. So he has some transitioning side decking, which changed completely his deck, and it was quite successful a couple of times. So I think that's a good thing. Like, side deck is really important. So, for example, I want to cry every time I see people siding extra deck cards in there. I think that's just being lazy. And for example, Oban did the same the last ARG, and I mean,
Do you really think siding extra deck cards is bad?
I don't think it's necessarily bad, but like it depends on how many. Like, for example, I think Oban was siding like even Billy Break. I think at the last regional was like siding 6 or something, and I think that's completely wrong. Like, you have to. I mean, I think that if you test enough, you'll always see that percentage in the extra deck cards you make that let you cut the card. For example, in Liverpool, I tested a lot, and I saw that some cards which everyone was playing, like D'Agusto Emerald, or there was another one I didn't play. I don't remember. What was it? Well, I don't remember. Anyway, I just didn't make them an enough time to justify them. So I think people a lot of the time underestimate that and just say, okay, everyone is playing D'Agusto Emerald, everyone is playing the secondary wolf, whatever. I have to play this card, or like the third Dante in BA, for example. Sometimes I played BA and I just played double Dante because some formats did justify that. So I think siding extra deck cards is like the #1 rule you should avoid if possible. Sometimes you can't, so sometimes I did side extra deck cards, but like it's really the last thing you should try to do. So that's a thing, I think.
Okay, cool. And going back to technical play a little bit, is there anything else? I mean, you mentioned life points as a resource rather than just a score kind of thing. What about in terms of like playing your cards or actually interacting with your opponent and reading, for example?
Yeah, that's definitely a big like the bluffing and mind tricking your opponent. I think is one of the reasons why I got to top consistently, especially over the strike, like 7 events in a row also. Because I think some formats allow it. Like, let's say this format right now, if you go first, make Tsukuyomi Buster, set traps, you can play how many mind games you want. Maybe you let them tribute the fusion in draw phase, but like you're still gonna lose the game. So I think it does matter from format to format, but there are some times where it actually matters a lot. Like, I remember a few games, even in the top card, where I would have lost. Like against Thomas Rowe, especially, the winner of YCS Liverpool, like in top 8 was absolutely unreal. He had like the nuts from game 1 to game 3, and I think I would have lost. Like, if we swapped seats, I would have probably lost. I would have probably won in like 2 turns every game. But just thanks to probably less experience on his side, I think it was his first top too. I really tricked him a lot, like literally a lot. For example, game 2. I lost game 1, and game 2, I go first, make Tsukuyomi, Buster, and back row. and it was like Twin Twister, System Down, Terror Drop, Tour Guide, back rows. Like, how is that game not over in like 5 minutes? And I actually won. Like, going super slow and like super bluffing on my cars, I could bait out this thing. And I stalled with like a gadget, fog blade on my own gadget, and A to protect it from monster effects. And I literally stole 30 minutes like this. So we got into time like game 3, and unfortunately in the end I lost, but that game I could win. And I think those kind of games you just win because of experience and because of mind games. So you should always try to read your opponent. As I said, sometimes unfortunately this is not the type of format that will let you win just thanks to that, but it happens. Especially with shuffling is another thing that some players do. Like, they're gonna add a card from their deck, not shuffle properly the end. You're just gonna, like with fog blade, it happens. You're just gonna see where it is, like where you set the card, and you're just gonna MST the other back row, for example. So I think these small things happen a lot, and that's a big advice I can give to new players.
Yeah, cool. And moving on to like game states and formats and stuff like that. What are some good hallmarks of a good format, and what do you think are some bad representations of bad formats?
You mean the representation of the examples, actually?
Examples of
Just general? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like what are some things specifically that make a format bad? For example, OTKs or these kind of things.
Yeah. So I think specifically, I think a few decks like not monometa, like tier 0 formats like Dragon Rulers or so on. But like when there are less around, you can
I think
help
your internet's
yourself
being a
better.
bit
Like
up
you
and
can
down. Have you
Okay,
started
I'll try
downloading
to-
something?
I
think it's
no,
fine
I
now.
didn't.
Okay. Continue now. Should be fine.
Okay. So I was saying, I think like decks with less formats with less deck around are more skilled. I always enjoyed the format where there are only a few decks around because you can prepare more, so you can build your side deck and main deck better against those. While like nowadays, for example, I think this is one of the worst format ever, like ever probably, because you just have to give up on something. You can't expect to be prepared against Buster Dragon with traps, then against Metal Foot, then against Frogs. There are too many unfair decks going first, which are too weak at the same time going second. So I think it's really bad when an experienced player have to admit defeat, in a sense that you have to give up on deck building in a certain direction, which is something I did in Liverpool, for example. I just analyzed the format, played a lot, and then just noticed that I can't beat anything consistently game 1, going second, of course, or like not depending on the die roll. So I just built my deck to be consistent when I win die roll game 1, and then I adjusted the side deck for game 2 and 3. And that's a bad thing to being forced to do. So I think the best format usually has only one deck, maybe 2, but not more than that. And the best deck that there is, is a deck that has been able to do things like not breaking, for example. That's why I enjoyed Necros, of course, and the Old Mermel and those kind of decks. Like, for instance, is BA, which is the deck I hate the most. Like, I have an actual deep hate in my heart, because like out of those 13 tops, I think the last 6 tops I had were all I lost all the time to BA, and it's been 2 years. So I played against all different kind of BAs and lost pretty much every time. Of course I won against BA a lot of times, but like I also lost against BA too many times to just hate it now. But I think in a fair statement that BA would be considered an okay deck, because it's like if you can play and not brick, then the format should be good. But of course, BA over the course of the years has never been able to play like 30 BA monsters and 10 spells. It always been trap BA, which is terrible. And so I don't know. I think like the best deck, the best formats are the formats where you can play your deck and be sure to not brick, so you can support the main deck with some touches. Because of course, if your deck already bricks, like Monarchs or even just recent examples, you can't really change your main deck that much. You can only add cards that implement the consistency. So I like instead consistent decks, and I hope the future will bring more, because now it's been a while without any good formats in Yu-Gi-Oh.
All right. And for individual cards or archetypes, so when there's a new set that drops or there's something coming out, how do you read a card and think to yourself, oh, that's a really good card, or that's a really bad card? But also in terms of how healthy it is for the game. So for example, yeah, sure, we can read something like I don't know, Monkey Board and be like, oh right, yeah, that's a good card. But as a concept, like how do you look at a card and go, oh right, I mean that's good because of XYZ reason.
Yeah.
But and on the other case, for example, you could argue, well, that's actually a bad card for the game because you have it gives you absurd advantage, it doesn't take much interaction or thinking to play, these kind of things. Like what are some like specific examples maybe that you can think of that show that a card is like bad for the game, but also is like mechanically good?
So what I used to do is, I mean, I never really look into the new set a lot before, so I just focus usually on the format, and then just look like 5 or a week before the set is released, and just look at everything online. And my friends know that I'm actually a little bit known for being kind of crazy because they don't understand that. But when I go to like the first days of a new set, I tend to look through all the commons and every card that there is, and just put them aside. I already do that online a little bit, but just I like to look through cards. And I have a strange selection. Like I have I think it's like 5 or 6 years that I don't trade. Like I have a lot of cards in my house, and I don't really like trading because I know Yu-Gi-Oh a lot, and I know that cards can come up even from like years ago when you never expect it. So I tend to use to keep a lot of cards, and I have like different boxes actually. I have some box of cards that I think could be good, and just cards of I consider trash as soon as I read them, and I just don't keep them. For example, what I look into a card is like the different potential. So of course there are cards that are, as you said, healthy for the game, and I have a lot of archetypes like on a side, even Kriston, which is like the new archetype, or so on. Like, but there are really bad cards for the game, and it depends. Like any flute gate, in my opinion, should be banned. But I mean, there are a lot of those which you can always keep. Like you never know what's gonna happen. Like for example, I remember Mistake when it was released. Some people didn't really care about it because the format wasn't really about that, but I was one of the first to like actually buy them as soon as they were there, because I understood like that's a card that can change something. And it was already a little bit around against Mermail sometimes, but I mean when Necros was released, of course that was so bad for the deck. And I don't know, there are some, like, I don't think for example Monkey Board is that bad for the game, but the support around that has to be of a, like, for example, when it was first released and the original Pepe was a thing, I think that's probably the best deck ever created. Like I think that's the strongest deck ever, but is so unhealthy. Like that format was so terrible. Like they could go first, make Infinity Ariadne, search multiple XYZs with back rows and negations, and you were just staring at them. But at the same time, the deck was super consistent, but I don't know, it was completely unfair going second. You couldn't really do anything against a mirror match, and even the entraps were like not that good. So I don't know. I think that Konami is actually making more plans now. I think in the past it was less clear that like they were releasing cards thinking of the future sets, but I think that it's gonna shape the format a lot. I think our kaijus, for example, like I was the one who, I don't know how many people know this, but I consider myself and our group, like me, Memoli, and Zoppini, the guy who got Clifford Towers banned, because we were the first ever to play the Clee Turbo deck.
Oh yeah, that was you guys. Nice one. Thanks for that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we were like, for example, like we were playing Necros since months. Like I was topping consistently with Necros. Then 5 days before European Championship, the special edition is released. Usually I don't even read the two cards. Then I read Wavering Eyes. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like that's broken. Like that can open up so many things. And so in like 3 days before the event, we thought of what could make it work, and we came up with the Clifford idea. So at the same time, I kind of proud that we made a card band, but like it was so unfair. And at that time, though, it was allowed. But that's why I think Konami is actually careful now, because now exists like 15 kaijus, like three, like of each. And I think kaijus doesn't allow certain unfair strategies to come up in the future. So, for example, I would have never played the tower deck if kaiju was a thing, of course, now. And so I think, I don't know. I think I just look at cards when they come up, and I have a certain list. As I said, I have a certain list of cancer cards, let's say, which are cards unfair for the opponent, and then certain cards which are never going to be good. Especially for kaijus, for example. A lot of cards, I used to read them, oh my god, they're amazing, then, yeah, but they're kaijus. So if they commit too much into the field, you can't really do that anymore, I think. So, that's it.
Okay, and for the final part, we're just going to talk a little bit about current events and the future for the game and stuff like that. So, speaking about YCS Anaheim, for example, is this weekend. Of course, we have YCS Bochum the week or 2 weeks after that. So, two big major events. First and foremost, how do you think, with such big coverage nowadays, we have like streams and stuff, and Konami shows American events, they can see our events. How do you think that's going to affect, Anaheim and Bochum together? Like, because they're so close to each other, because, you have your ideas for Bochum, but, something might happen this weekend that could drastically change that, last minute. So how do you approach that kind of thing?
I kind of work on that. So basically in the past, it wasn't like that. As you said, now the coverage is amazing and of course everyone can have access to those infos. And it was just a matter of adapting. Like in the past, for example, the wind-up format, which was the wind-up Dino Rabbit, Insector, that format there, a lot of people were actually underestimating wind-ups. It was not played at all. And I tested so much with it, and I was in love with the deck. I couldn't play National because I was in my graduation from high school. And then the American Invitational was the week before European, and wind-up dominated. So I was super salty about that, and had to quickly adjust my deck for the upcoming European. I did top, but I mean, it didn't go too well. So I think now I learned how to adapt to this situation. I mean, this is our reality now. There are events almost every week. ARG is also a thing. Even though ARG is not as competitive as a YCS, people still look up to that, and the deck lists are online as soon as Sunday. So I think that I learned now how to take less time for testing. So for example, now I just test without wasting time what I think will be necessary anyway. So like, for example, I learned the combos for every deck. I learned how much they break, how much they can accomplish certain things. So I tend to do that as soon as I can, and then I just wait for whatever events. Like right now, for example, I know every deck in the format. I could play them all, but like I'm just gonna wait for Anaheim to test further. Like this week, I'm not gonna waste my time like playing certain matchups when, as you said, maybe this weekend something a little bit new or some spies happen. And so what I tend to do now is just wait for the most important event that there is before mine. And then I learned how to test quicker, I think, just to use my time better. And that's what I'm going to do. So in Anaheim, I don't know, I think it's going to be a pretty good event. And I know there are also a few Europeans going, so we'll see how that goes. And my plans for Bochum are just that. I'm gonna wait in Anaheim and then see how it goes. Also, because there are cars released, for example, like sometimes you don't get that. Like cars are released right before an event, like it was for Wavering guys. This time there are no other cars released after Anaheim, I believe. So we can see Dark Lord, for example, if they're gonna do anything at this YCS. We can see whatever new archetype there is. So I don't know. I'm gonna look forward to what happens at the YCS, and I will just do my prepare afterwards.
Yeah, all right, that's fair enough. And this is for anyone in the stream chat, if you can throw some questions out, because we'll get to a Q&A in just a moment. So feel free to ask anything at all you want. I'm sure Marcel will be more than happy to ask answer anything. So
Yeah, sure.
Also, talking a little bit about more of the current format, do you want to maybe give us a brief rundown of what you think are, some of the better decks, the pros and cons, and maybe what about some sleeper decks as well you think that could be okay or good choices for events?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are some obvious top contenders, which are especially ABC and Metalfall. And then there are a few other decks, in particular Paleozoics, Mermails, and a few other like Dark Lords or so. I'm not even naming Blue Eyes, but yeah, I mean, a few are there. And so how I think the format is shaped is that most decks just want to go first, and like ABC is on top of that. Is probably one of the best decks at going first that was lately released. So it's fairly consistent going first, and it has one of the easier but strongest combo that there are. So I think ABC is definitely one of the top contender, but at the same time you have to give up going second. That's what I did on Liverpool, for example. I just said ABC can't really win going second game one, so I'm just gonna focus on the side deck and see how it goes. Metalfall is completely different, so I think you have a more consistent deck overall, both going in second and going first, but it's definitely not that simple. Like with ABC, you have everything ready. It's just like a piece of cake, basically. You just go to an event, you can just read the cards probably even there, and it's gonna be super easy, both to win and both to lose, honestly. With Metalfall, I think you need much better preparation, because there are a lot of combos. I mean, the deck itself access XYZ, Synchro, and Fusion, so and Pendulum, so of course Pendulum Summon. So there's like 4 types of special summoning which you need to mesh together, and so it's of course much more complicated. I'm not a fan of it, honestly. I was never a fan of Pendulums. Like, I think the only Pendulum deck I ever played in a tournament was the Clifford Turbo deck. So sometimes I like Pendulums, but it's always a mechanic which is strange. Like, you still need 2 scales, and Monkey Board is not a card anymore, so it's always gonna be 2 real cards from your end, and then you need ways to create a board. So I think Metalfall is good at doing that, but going second against Dimensional Barrier especially, which is a format shaping card, and any deck, I don't really believe Metalfall is good enough to win going second all the time. So what I would call a sleeper deck is Paleozoic instead. So I think the deck is underestimated a lot. Like, I probably say every tournament there is like 5% people playing it or so. I don't really see a lot of people. Like, for example, here at my locals there is no one playing it, and there are people playing other random deck like DDD or whatever, Heroes Herald, but no one playing Paleozoics. And I think the deck is actually fair. I like it, so I wouldn't be surprised if it had some success. Again, that's also a deck that needs a lot of deck building, because I mean, ABC and Metalfall, you can just go online and check 100 times of like 100 deck lists, different deck lists, and just choose whatever one you like. While Paleozoic, there is basically none. A few people played it at the first day RG was legal, but then that's it. So I think Paleozoic is the dark horse, called Dark Rose, right? So
Yep,
that's
that's the term.
that's what I think it could potentially do the best, and especially because it's completely misregarded. Like if you don't have a proper side deck, like if you don't have certain cards, you're just gonna lose against Pilots. Like that's what I want to warn you about. Like you can't just say, okay, I'm gonna have Twin Twisters and whatever, maybe Cosmic Cyclones, and I'm gonna win. I don't think that's true. So I think the deck has to be respected. So that's my thing. And finally, I mean, the new thing is Dark Lord, and I did play them a little bit. I think they have potential, but at the same time, they have some problems, just like Blue Eyes does. They brick a little bit, not that much, because they can play like 15 draw cards, but still they need to accomplish something. So it's not like you draw, and then, for example, again, Clifford Turbo, draw a lot, but then you bring the bomb down. Like now with Dark Lord, not so true. Like maybe you can get to a Christia, maybe you can get to whatever, but I don't think just summoning a bunch of Dark Lord is a win condition. So I think Dark Lord might be successful, but it also needs a specific direction. So maybe Christia is the way, but again, gonna lose to Dark Lord, gonna lose to maybe Book of Eclipse. So we'll see how it goes. But that's my view of the format. I don't think anything else is that relevant. Like there are Minerva decks, but I really think that's terrible. I don't like them at all. And I mean, BA is just BA. It's always gonna be there as a 8 deck. It's not bad, definitely not bad, but I just consider them a little bit further behind. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's a fair analysis, I guess. So onto the Q&A, guys. If anyone still wants to throw a question out, there's a couple here. Throw it out now. That's your last chance. One question I wanted to ask, actually, you mentioned in your profile from Liverpool, you said that you think that Ghost Reaper is bad. I didn't quite understand why. I probably should have just went and watched it again. But what was your reasoning again for why Reaper sucks against, like, particularly ABC?
Okay, so it was Winter Cherries, like when you first read it, you don't understand it that much, but like I think Winter Cherries is a potentially format changing card, but it really depends on what the deck is. So against BA, I used to play a lot of BA, and in the mirror match is undeniable that the card is broken. But I remember a fairly reasonable amount of games where I still won. But in that particular matchup, I think that's purely luck. So it's like you play the mirror match of BA, you get cherried, you need to draw your traps, like actually draw them. So otherwise you're not going to win with Super Quantum or a Break Sword. So I think against BA it's really good. But against ABC, I don't think that's the case. Especially I was playing the mirror match, of course, because I was playing ABC my own. And basically what happened is they don't summon Buster as their main move like BA summon Dante. So they're still going to go for like a Fuel Spell, a Gadget, then of course the Unit Monster, then Tsukuyomi, which sets whatever trap you already have in your hand. Then you get to draw 2 other cards, and then when that's happened, you get cherried. So I don't think that's potentially too good. Like if you play a deck that can overcome Tsukuyomi, Field Spell, and Backrows, okay, that's fine. But I don't think the ABC mirror match works like that. Because like if they go first, make Tsukuyomi, and they have like Anti-Spell, Solemn Strike, now there is even Dimensional Barrier, whatever. If you cherry them, you're on a -1, while they are on a +1 because they Tsukuyomi'd. So how are you going to plan on winning the game? Like, it's not a grind game, that's what I mean. When you play the ABC mirror, every game lasts 2 turns max, like maybe 3 turns or so. But if that's the case, okay, you're going to slow them down, but you're going to lose. So I tried it out, and the reason was also that Zoppini and the other guy, Mekotzi, were also playing the same deck list as me in Liverpool. And the first round, I didn't get to play any mirror match, while they did. And they all told me, we lost when we drew Winter Cherry. So I was like, okay, I thought more about it during the tournament, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm not gonna side it. So I never sided the card for any matchup, and I still won. So going back, I would have changed that for something else. I think there are better cards. So there is, for example, Artifact Lancia. There is the new pot, which shuffles back. There are, like, I think, a few cards which are just much better than the Winter Cherries.
Okay, fair enough. So let's wrap up with the Q&A now. What time is it? I think we've gone for 1 hour 20 minutes, and I think it's like 15 minutes maybe, or connection problems. So we're a bit over now, but let's fire through real quick. So again, guys, last chance to throw some questions out. So first and foremost, let's see. So are you still going to play ABC over Metaphors?
I don't know. It's like, as I said, I'll wait for YCS Anaheim to say anything sure. But I consider Metalfo to be a better deck in general. But yes, I think that if the YCS was tomorrow, I would play ABC over Metalfo. So yes.
Okay. And next question. Something that people talk about so much, and it's just been a big debate since its release, Pot of Desires. So this person is specifically asking, you know, because it loses you combo cards and stuff like that. But just, I guess a better question just be, tell us your thoughts on that card. Why do you think it's good, or why do you think it's bad? And do you think some decks can play it or can't play it, etc., etc.?
So I think it's when I look at the discussion for Pot of Desires, I noticed something, I mean, funny but understandable, which is every old player, like, let's say, like me, like who played for like 10 years, instantly considered the card really good, while the criticism were all basically coming from more recent players. The thing is that we used to play in formats where the +1 was actually a big deal, like you had to earn it. And so I think people just underestimate now what a +1 is, because many cards do that nowadays. But like Pot of Desires is still a really +1 for nothing almost. So I think that any deck which should try to play it. So I do think that some decks can't, but I think the deck building for Pot of Desires is really important. So you should try to adapt your deck to that. So, for example, there are some decks which is Cosmo Fire King, for example, which was popular and it won the YCS when Pot of Desire was released. You can't play the card. Like, sure, you can adapt that, but what are you gonna play? Like multiple Garunix, multiple Island. Like those are really, really bad ways to adapt for Pot of Desires. While other decks, like for example BA or I don't know, many other decks, like also Metal Foes, they didn't even think about it. Like everyone was saying, okay, you can lose the Takeronborg, Tour Guide, Seer, but everyone was playing Pot of Desires in BA because the card is just free, it's free advantage, and I think Pot of Desires, if the format and if the game in the future will change back to grind games, then Pot of Desires might disappear. Because that's the thing. But nowadays, as I said, most games just last 3 turns, 4 turns maybe. They do look long, because every turn took like 10 minutes, but 5 minutes or whatever. But they're really short games in terms of turns. So Pot of Desire doesn't matter. You could even say like banish 15 and I would still play it, because it doesn't matter how many cards you lose in the deck. Because what you should consider the cards banished is like most cards that are just in the bottom top of the deck. So you're still not going to access them. But of course, there are tragedies. Like, for example, Zoppini, which is known for his bad luck. He was playing ABC in Liverpool, and like in the first rounds, he used Pot of Desires and banished 3A and 3B, which is like, I don't know, even possible by physics or something. And he lost like that. Yeah.
Oh, did you not manage to grind it out, no?
With triple C, yeah.
Triple C turbo.
Nice plus.
So let's see. Where are we at? What is your opinion on the Zodiac Beasts, and how do you think they'll impact the game? You say you don't really look too far ahead in the future, but I'm
Yeah,
sure you've.
exactly. So,
But I mean, I'm sure you've seen some
I
of the ridiculous, like Terror Top is like one card plus six and all those
yeah,
kind of things.
as I said, I really don't like. For example, if you would ask me for any name or effect, I probably wouldn't be able to say it. But like, I did see a few videos on like at least what it's supposed to do with Terror Trop, especially, and I think that's wow, like that's surprising. So I'm not a fan of that because as I said, I don't want to say too much because I don't know. So if it is another way to just go first and do that and then set up a board which your opponent can't really do much about going second, then I'm not a fan of it. If instead, if it's not, I don't mind it because I mean, uh, if it is that good that is gonna bring other decks down and the mirror match is okay, then I don't mind it. I might support it. And
So as long
so
as it
we'll
has
see how it
like
goes.
interaction, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if, like, let's say, if Terrortrop is a +5, but it's a +5 which doesn't lock your opponent down. I don't mind if both people like drew a Terrortrop because the better player is gonna win. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like a +5 that ends with locking your opponent, like a Gene lock, for example. So if that's the case, then I think it's terrible. But if it is not, then it's good for the game in a sense. So.
If you could make a really quick preliminary ban list, what do you think should be on it?
Okay, so as I said, the flute gates are just terrible for me. So emptiness should go, and anti-spell probably should go. On anti-spell is like kind of more complicated because of course there is the pendulum issue, but I think it should go. Like it's just not too specific for pendulums. Like if I would release something similar for pendulums, I wouldn't mind it. But like it hurts so many decks. Like even against in the ABC mirror, it's just unfair. Or in other like matchups. So I think anti-spell it just gotta go. Like or at least not a triple copy. Like because you just gotta draw it. So like I wouldn't mind an anti-spell at 1. Let's say some cards I think they should stay at 3 or at 0. Well, like anti-spell is a card that you have to see going first and like in the opening end. So I don't mind if it would get limited also, for example. The other cards, I don't know. I think BA should never get the chance to go back. So I think it's not enough yet. And probably the Terror Trop deserves the limitation or the ban, even if that's going to be so powerful. But I still don't know Zodiac Beast, so I don't want to say it. For the rest, I was always not a fan of terraforming. I think sometimes it's too unfair. So maybe that's a card that should get limited too. And it would eat quite a bit ABC at the same time. So because whenever they don't draw the field spell, they're a much more fair deck. So, but for the rest of it, I don't really mind most of the cards, honestly. Like in Metalfall, I don't really mind the most of it. Like I don't know, I don't have too much hate, as I said. I just ate a few cards. And the flute gates especially. Like for the rest, not that much. Maybe Kirin is too powerful that he should be deserved a ban, but I mean for now I don't mind it too much. So just flute gates and a little bit more.
All right, fair enough. And let's say second last question. What do you think about playing traps in Metal Foes like Kamal Crooks did? I think that's the guy from PPG.
Yeah, I
Incorporating
know
a
him.
lot more traps into Metal Foes. What do you think about that strategy?
Um, if I'm correct, it was just like playing dimensional barriers and that's it. If I remember the guy correctly, so I don't mind that. If you mean more than that, no. But I think Metaphor should play a couple traps, like 2, maybe 3 dimensional cards among like dimensional barrier and emptiness. Because I think, as I said, the deck does require to have scales because it's a pendulum deck, and then it requires you to have some things to make a board, which means a third Metalful card, Gofu, Bumbuku, any of that. So I don't think the deck is good enough to recover the board going second, especially. So I think if you play a card like Dimensional Barrier, which can be twisted, can be really countered anyway, it will help you a lot because Metalful wins the grind game against the old format, basically. He has so much grinding, and I mean, it's just a pendulum deck, which is naturally what it does. So I think that's correct. I don't mind Kamal's choice.
All right, and finally to wrap up, opinion on Depatria getting banned.
On?
Depatria getting banned.
Di Patria, no. I mean, no, I don't, on a side, I think that's not correct. So I knew him, I talked to him, as I said, I created him in a way by letting him win national. So that's where he became the character he was. I think it's unfair on a side, but it was pretty stupid. Like, it was retarded. So when I talked to him, I was like, I'm sorry about it because I know how much he cares about the game, and I know that he's super fair. Like, he doesn't cheat, he doesn't shark, and and the game was basically his whole life. So I think there are much worse people in the game that should deserve a ban. Like, I could name countless, but at the same time, it was just retarded. So. I mean, what I told him, we talked a little bit about it, it's your fault. You should have known this when you created your character. Some people are going to hate you and you give him a chance. So he gave them the chance and he got the punishment. So I can't really say it was wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think 3 years is probably a bit overkill.
Yeah, 3 years is like super overkill, but like... I don't know. I don't understand the ban logic. Like, there were a lot of Italians getting banned actually recently, and even a friend of mine from locals, which got also 3 years out of nowhere. So I don't know. They're pretty strange. Like they get cheaters like 1 year, and I don't know. Like, why would you give him 3 years for something you wrote on Facebook? I think 1 year was already would be already a shock. It would be like, you are retarded. Take this year back, and it would still be probably really sorry, really sad about it, and understood it. So I think 3 years is overkill, definitely. But who knows the Konami logic? Like, I stopped trying to understand it a long time ago. So.
All right. Well, this has been another episode, boys. We've had it's been a real pleasure speaking to Marcello here, one of the top players in Europe. Honestly, one of the greatest legends that we've had on this side of the pond, and hopefully we'll see more of him in some future projects and videos and discussions, etc. So thanks again for joining me and for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming out on the stream, and to watch this forward on YouTube, I'm gonna have to upload it tomorrow night because I have to edit out all the disconnections and stuff like that. So wait for tomorrow night if you missed it and you want to see it on YouTube. And for today, I still have some deck profiles and stuff that need to be done. So that's about everything, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and we shall see you next time.
Thank you.
Come, face me. Give in to your pride.